Okay, so hello, my name is Cora Conatser. I'm a microbiology and pre-dental student at Ball State. I am a sophomore, and I am from Muncie, Indiana, or just outside Muncie in Albany. And I will be interviewing Ainsley today. So Ainsley, if you could introduce yourself, that would be great.
Yeah, hi, I'm Ainsley. I'm a freshman in the architecture program, and I'm from Portland, Michigan, so just outside of Lansing.
Okay, awesome. So how did you end up in the Honors 199 class?
Um, yeah, I really didn't know what I was getting myself into. I was in that meeting with the advisor last summer, and it's a requirement, and so I was like, yeah, sure. I had no idea what the topic was going to be, um, but it turned out well. So yeah, I'm here.
Awesome. So did you know the title of the course or anything, or did you just show up and was like, okay, I'm ready?
I just knew it was Inquiries in Contemporary American Civilization. I didn't know what that meant at all.
Okay, so you really just didn't know what to expect.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll get started with your background. So tell me about your hometown and where you grew up.
It's a really small town, and very white. Yeah, we're very privileged, just small, like kind of living in our own little world. Nobody really leaves. Nobody really comes in. Yeah, that's about it.
Okay. So would you say what is the biggest city near you? You said Lansing, right?
hmm
Okay. So was there a lot of like talk about race in your hometown? And if so, how did that go?
No, we were very ignorant. Just kind of avoid the topic altogether. Like even in school, we never learned about race or anything, and we didn't really recognize that privilege either. That we could kind of just set it aside and not think about it.
Right. So what high school did you go to?
Portland High School.
Okay, so there wasn't any type of diversity in any of your curriculum, like kindergarten through the entire way?
No, there were a few Black students, but I don't know. We just kind of like color blindness. We just kind of ignore it.
Yeah. So then being in that environment, what did you think about race when you were growing up?
Um, I never really thought about it because I didn't have to. I don't know. I guess I was just always kind of confused and then just would set it aside because I didn't know how to approach it or any like vocabulary or um, even how to start a conversation about race.
Yeah, so it sounds pretty similar to mine because I guess like every year it was like Dr. Martin Luther King did this. This is what happened.
Yeah.
It was the same
Yeah.
kind of thing for you then, I guess. Okay. Well, so since there weren't any conversations about race, when did you start thinking about race and the problems surrounding it?
Um, Definitely when I started college. So I'm still kind of in that process at the end of my freshman or end of this first semester here. Um, yeah, with all the events happening on campus. I guess also just this past summer, with the Black Lives Matter movement. I'm also kind of close to Grand Rapids, and there was a lot of um, like police brutality stuff over there. And I actually did walk through Grand Rapids a little while after all the protests, and just to see like all the broken glass windows and everything was really overwhelming and humbling. So
Yeah. So how did you feel about that? How did it make you feel
um,
through?
I was just shocked. Uh, and I want to do something about it, but I just didn't know how. Like you can post a black screen, but
Mhm.
I didn't know what I could do or how that really affected me.
Right. So I think that that's a super debatable topic about like the riots and what like a lot of cities and buildings and things like that in the city were like destroyed, not completely, but windows are broken in and things like that. So how, whenever you were walking through there, like how did you interpret that? And I guess how did it make sense to you that that was happening?
Yeah, I was just confused because I understand that they're releasing their anger. They're so angry at everything, like breaking but some of those shop owners, like, they must be Black, and I didn't really understand how that helped the problem other than like news coverage. Um, yeah, I just wanted to know.
About the news coverage because it brought a lot of attention. It also brought
Yeah.
a lot of anger throughout the world. But I think it's comparable to like, when you're really mad, you just have to do something. Sometimes you can't just sit there. Sometimes you just have to let it go. So that, yeah, I think that was a good comparison. So since you didn't have a lot of cultural diversity around you growing up, did you experience a lot of racism in high school or even throughout elementary and middle school or even in your town?
No, not really. I think, I mean, there's no like particular event either that happened at my school. The only thing I can remember is like seeing students, like how they would interact with those few Black students at my school, and they would make a big deal about being friends with them and like to get the N-word pass, jokes about that in middle school. I remember that. But other than that, no.
So you don't remember like any one certain circumstance where you thought to yourself like, "Oh, that was racist."
No, not in my hometown.
Okay, just because there wasn't a lot around.
hmm
Okay. So you said that there were a few Black kids in your class. Did you that you graduated with or
Um, I actually don't think there were any Black students in my graduating class.
okay, that's crazy.
I know.
Yeah.
I,
So how have some other identities like your social positions such as gender, class, religion, region shape your experience with race?
I mean, as a woman, like the intersectionality part of it is really interesting. I remember that reading from Kendi where he said that you can't be anti-racist if you aren't feminist, and that was just really interesting to me, like how they interact, and it's just so complex, and I still want to understand it more. But seeing how those two interact is interesting.
Yeah,
That's definitely part of my identity.
yeah. So when you say that, the first thing that I thought about was also you can't be anti-racist without being anti-capitalist. So what do you think about that?
um, I didn't really know much about capitalism. Uh, I'm trying to remember what exactly it is.
I think just the main ideas of it would be that like the free market, laissez-faire
Oh,
government, um, basically the economy that the United States is. So we
yeah,
talked about in class like the exploitation. You have to exploit workers in order to make the profit in a capitalist economy, like any market at all in the capitalist economy.
yeah, the anti-capitalism, that's definitely a very democratic idea. And I'm just kind of confused with how it would work because I understand, but um, like how could our economy even operate without the competition? And that just sounds so like communist, I guess, without any competition at all. But I do understand like how capitalism is so racist in
Yeah,
itself.
yeah. I think one of the things that Kendi was getting at there was that capitalism, yes, exploits everyone as far as labor goes, but they exploit minorities so much more because they're caught in this intersectionality of everything. So I think, yeah, I think that's really important. And I think what you were saying is really hard to grapple with and understand. So, yeah, I understand that. Um, so, in your high school class or any class when you were growing up, did you learn about like the history of racism or what capitalism was, how they intersected?
Um, the most I learned about the history of racism was probably like the Pilgrims and Christopher Columbus. Uh, and I mean, we learned about Martin Luther King Jr. Like I remember every day on that day we would like, have some little discussion about racism and like what he did. his whole I Have a Dream speech. We just learned about that like year after year, and that's about the extent of it.
Yeah.
Um, Capitalism, I took an econ class high school in my senior year because that was required, but we never talked about its connection with racism or anything beyond surface level.
Okay. So let's see. So where do you think your hometown fits into the system of systematic racism?
Um, just reinforcing the idea that, well, just like that we can just set it aside and not talk about it, just kind of putting it off. So definitely, yeah, just reinforcing the whole system in itself by not doing anything, not trying to change anything, just kind of leaving it as it is.
Okay. So can you elaborate a little bit more about your experience with racism when you got to college? Because you said that that's kind of when you started thinking about race. So what prompted that feeling?
Um, I mean, actually having Black students in my classes, and I mean, it's not like it's such a big deal or anything. It's just like I hadn't, and seeing, especially with everything happening on campus, like I saw the Trump protesters, the I don't even know what to call them, those people driving through our campus and just yelling at people. And then waving their flags and stuff. And that was just really overwhelming. And like it was still scary, but just recognizing that privilege that like it's not like I'm okay at the end of the day. I can just walk away from it. And then also one of my friends, I have a close friend I made on campus, and he is Black and he has other Black friends too. And he put on his Snapchat story like a video of his friends getting like harassed on campus because they were Black. And I didn't see it firsthand, but just knowing that was happening on my campus, that just made me want to do something about it. And that made me so angry. Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand that. So how did you react to that? Like, did you take any action against that?
No, and I mean, I just felt like it wasn't my place because it was like, it wasn't even well, it was secondhand, I guess, because he wasn't even there. It was just happening to them. So they took a video of it and then he put his story. And I just want to know, like, what should I have done? Or
Yeah.
I don't know, because I hate not doing anything either. It just feels awful.
Yeah. So then do you think your relationship was affected because of that or no?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, we haven't really talked about it actually, which I'd like to have a conversation about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I had kind of a similar, well, not really, but I made a friend last year, my freshman year as well. And I was taking the RA class with him. And he was like so cool. He was also Black. He was just awesome. And I had met him in orientation as well. So we were talking throughout the year as friends as well too. So it was towards the end of the year. And he asked me if because I was working out every day, if I wanted to work out with him and his friends. And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, we can definitely plan to do that. And he was like, but you won't care if like all my friends are Black, right? And I was just like, no. And it just made me really sad that he had to like feel that way. And it's almost like he had to get permission from me. And so, yeah, I kind of understand where you're going from there. And I understand like where you didn't want to take action because sometimes it can be really uncomfortable. But hopefully this class has like helped with your confidence as far as that goes.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so now we'll move into our contemporary society. So how do you think the events of 2020, since it's been so crazy, such as like the pandemic, a lot of racist events happening, and then the effects of that being, a lot of riots, a lot of protests, social changes, things as that goes, the election, other current events that you can think about. How do you think that it has changed the perception of race in the United States?
Um, I mean, all the protests, that kind of goes along with the pandemic because we had so much free time to reflect on everything in our society. But the protests definitely drew a lot of attention to it. And I think that was really good that we could have those conversations. And it was just all over social media and we couldn't avoid it. I think that was good. I don't know if it really changed perception, but it just drew more attention to it. So now we recognize the issue, maybe. Other current events, like the election. I don't know, just all of the alt-right things with just driving on campus. Again, just drawing attention to it. I don't really know if anything changed in our perception.
Okay. So, do you think that the pandemic has allowed a lot more people to think about what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just so much free time. Like, we finally get a chance to think about it, and then that coincided with the protests too.
Yeah. And I think that that can go both ways because I think that a lot of people have more downtime to learn and educate themselves about the issue. But then again, I think that there's a less likely chance that they're going out in public and seeing it visually.
Yeah.
But maybe because they're educating themselves, they'll be able to see it better whenever things go back to normal, hopefully.
Yeah,
So,
maybe they're sitting there during quarantine reading some Kendi. I don't know.
you never know. You never know. Yeah, so going along with that, actually. So I know I spoke about yesterday in our interview about my reactions to the books that we had to buy. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Like at the beginning of the year when I was buying them,
Yeah,
or
it's, like when you saw the title of the book, did that like catch you by surprise or anything?
it did. I got pretty scared. um, because I just really don't know how to have a conversation about race. So I knew this was a discussion-based class, and I was going to have to talk about it, and I just didn't know how. But also, I think part of me was kind of relieved that I would know how by the end of this class, because I do want to. I want to be able to. It's scary to confront, but it's definitely been good for me.
Yeah, so you're glad that you persevered.
Yes, definitely.
So did you enjoy the books that we read and the articles that we studied?
Yeah, I haven't gone too much beyond what we had to read for class, so I don't think I've quite read the entire Kendi book yet. But um, yeah, it's been really interesting, and I definitely enjoyed his chapters. I mean, all of them, but specifically like the bias, the implicit bias was, or yeah, implicit bias was really interesting. And then what else was it? I mean, the intersectionality was really interesting to me too.
Yeah. Can you explain the implicit bias because I kind of forget?
Um, so that because it's hard to explain because it's just bias that you're not aware of, really. It's just all I can't think of the exact terms we used in class, but like it's just kind of built in. Like even if you don't think that you're racist, like you might still have like you're going to have these implicit biases against like all people. Like uh,
I think I see where you're going with it.
yeah, it's just so hard to explain that one.
Kind of conditioned within us that
Yeah,
it's like it's naturally there.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So I know that you talked about your friend, the story of your friend being harassed on campus, and then along with this class, is there anything else that has like struck you as racism or has just after this class especially you've thought about, wow, that was racist and that's something that I wouldn't have thought of before?
Um, Not no major events, but I think I've definitely started to recognize when people close to me like use the wrong language, I guess. So I'll be able to confront that now, like have a conversation. But just little things like microaggressions, kind of.
Yeah. Okay. So because of that, have you increased your volunteering or any kind of extracurricular activity on campus to be involved in anti-racist actions?
I feel I've been so overwhelmed by class and stuff. I mean, that's just a big excuse, but I mean, I haven't. But I'd like to. Uh, yeah, I gotta figure out different ways I can. But after this class, I definitely want to. So that's the first step.
So yesterday, I recall you mentioned you volunteered at the Multicultural Center.
Mhm.
So can you discuss what you did there and how that affected you?
Yeah, I would usually volunteer once a week in Cardinal Kitchen. So it's our food pantry for students. And yeah, I really enjoyed that. It just kind of got me out of doing homework and doing something that really impacted campus too.
Okay. So did you see any racism in that setting?
Mm, no, not
Okay.
really. I mean, we didn't really have many visitors this year either, like just 2 people or maybe 4 people within a 2 hour period.
Oh, wow. So there was quite a bit of downtime then.
Yeah.
Okay. So branching off of that then, so like you said in high school, you didn't have any Black classmates, you weren't doing any projects with any Black classmates, you weren't volunteering with Black classmates. So has that changed in the college setting? I know that you said you have a friend, so you probably hang out with your friend, but say if you're working in the Cardinal Kitchen and you're working with someone Black, how has that changed your perception?
Mm, I don't know. I don't know that it has. Uh, One other thing though, my friend who is Black is actually planning to transfer after this year because of our racism on campus, and he just feels so like ostracized because of his race.
Wow,
Um,
that's awful.
I know. I don't even like. I understand though. Like I mean, I'm not going to try to stop him because I want him to be comfortable and uh, yeah.
So can you elaborate on the experience that he had? Or is it kind of private? If so, that's okay.
Um, I mean, I think that he just wants more of a Black community on campus, and you're not going to find that here. I mean, there are some Black students and they have their space, but uh, like I get it.
Yeah.
And then
So,
also,
sorry, go ahead.
oh well, just his experience with his friends too.
Okay. So, what happened in that circumstance, if you don't mind sharing, in the harassment circumstance that he experienced?
Well, he wasn't there. It was his close friends though.
Okay.
Um, yeah, in the video, it just looked like some people across the street were yelling like really awful things at them, and then like they were yelling back though, like uh, they were standing up for themselves, but still.
Yeah, still. So, did they take any university action?
I really don't know.
Okay.
I don't know them personally, so I never like felt like I could ask.
Okay. So, I think that that's pretty significant then that your friend is transferring because his friends were harassed. And I think that that might not happen um, if it were someone that was white because we just don't think that, one, that doesn't happen as often. And so then we don't think about that. But that's so prevalent in their lives that it just, you can tell how much that upset him and made him mad. So, yeah, that's really sad. I'm sorry that he's moving. Do you know what university he's going to?
He's looking at a couple like down in Georgia or
Oh,
like on the East Coast or something, but yeah, he really wants to get out of the Midwest, and I mean, I can't blame him.
that's really sad, though.
Yeah.
That's a bad reflection, and it should be on us. So it's embarrassing.
Hmm.
It's crazy to think about all of those things that go unnoticed. Like, yes, we don't learn, but we hear about all of these things that happen on campus, um, such as the professor last year, um, just the big things. But all of those little things, they don't really get noticed, and they add up and they create a lot of uncomfort within the Black community, I think.
Hmm. Yeah, we can just kind of set it aside and not confront it, but
Right,
they have to face it every day, and yeah.
right. Okay. Let's see. So how, I think we kind of just talked about this, but how would you describe race relations or race issues at Ball State?
Um, hmm. Well, I really haven't gotten out much this year, so I don't know how much I can talk about it. But uh, like those big five, there's a race issue, and then they send a letter, and then something changes, maybe. Um, but something interesting from class that has stuck with me was confronting the racist, not the racism. And well, because our college is like a business, that they run it like a business, they're like, if there is a racist incident, then they're kind of blaming it on that person, not just the systematic racism at place.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you think that goes along um, as far as Ball State goes, and really any university, because I think any university is run like a business, but so do you think that that's a smaller scale of capitalism?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Do you have anything else to add on that topic?
um just like our campus.
Yeah, just race.
um Not that I can think of. I think we
Okay.
covered it. It's pretty good. Yeah.
Okay. So a question branching off of that. So have you ever looked at the Benny Link activities or like the groups, clubs on Benny Link?
Yeah, because I wanted to join some clubs, but then they didn't happen.
Yeah, that's that issue, especially as a freshman. Um, but say traditionally, or even when we were online, how comfortable would you have been joining a diversity group or supporting a like one of the big fives?
Not comfortable. I don't know. I would have definitely wanted to talk to somebody in charge because I want to give them their space, and I don't know. Like I just don't want to take away from that, but I want to learn.
Yeah,
I I just honestly don't know how to handle that situation.
yeah, I feel the same way. Um, so what do you think it is inside your mind saying like, nope, I can't do that?
Um, that's tough. I don't know. Just not knowing, and like we've had some conversations in class about giving giving people like their space in their community and like not making it a white space.
Yeah, I can understand that.
So I just don't want to do that. That's all. But I want to support them and like be there. Yeah, it's a dilemma.
Yeah. Okay. Um, okay, so would you agree that Ball State is a diverse place?
mm, in comparison to my hometown, definitely. But no, I mean, just looking at the stats, like I don't remember any specific numbers, but it's very overwhelmingly white, and that does reflect the Midwest kind of in general.
Yeah.
Well, I can't say that. I really shouldn't, but I mean, there are like parts of big cities and stuff that are definitely Black, but
Yeah. Okay. Um, I don't know over that. So, along with that same kind of idea, do you think because Ball State is predominantly white, do you think that Ball State creates a culture of belonging?
um,
This is hard too.
I mean, we try. We try to give them their spaces with the different clubs and opportunities at the Multicultural Center, which I think will be a lot better once it's actually on campus. I don't know if you've seen the Multicultural Center, but it's this awful little white like house off campus. It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's really depressing in there. Um, I I mean, with the experience with my friend and him not feeling belonging, like I guess I just don't really think they do a good job at it. I'm not sure what specifically needs to change. That's not my place, but no.
Yeah. So going along with the multicultural center, so I've been in the multicultural center as well. So do you think that the new multicultural center will attract more attention and will therefore increase diversity on campus?
I really hope so. I mean, I've seen pictures of what it's going to be, and its location is really nice too, right next to like the library and stuff. So I'm hoping that more people will want to go in because, yeah,
I think the newness of it in itself will attract more people. So, and I think that's basically with everything. When you have a new building go up, people get curious, and so hopefully that will bring in more attention and volunteers and more activities. So.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so then we will move on to the class and then also how it's affected your future.
Okay.
Okay, so what has the course meant for you?
Um, a lot. Just a lot of insight into vocabulary, especially, and how to have conversations. That's really the main thing. And I know Dr. Bartlett has really emphasized that. But now I feel just so much more comfortable. Just the comfort level has really gone up with talking about the issues and confronting my own racism. And yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think has made you more comfortable in talking about it compared to coming into the class and being really uncomfortable to communicate?
Being forced to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, yeah, there are like the few people who still really intimidate me because I feel like they just know everything and are so comfortable in themselves. But I just know that I want that. And so I'm going, even after this class, I really want to just keep reading and learning and improving on my own knowledge. Um, but yeah, the books definitely helped a lot.
Yeah. So out of the books that we read, what was your favorite?
Definitely Kendi. I mean, I just like his view on everything and how he faces his own racism within it too, while like teaching us how to face ours.
Okay. So what have you learned this semester and what will you take with you?
um, a lot of very, very lot. Specific things though. Intersectionality. I still don't even quite understand it just because it's so complex. Like all these interactions between sexism, um, racism, and all of the isms. All I guess like classism and like gender. But yeah, just seeing how all those interact was really interesting. Was it how what I'm taking with me, right?
What you're taking with you, yes.
Yeah, just like this huge knowledge base on everything. It's been very overwhelming. Mm, I feel like I've learned so much, but also there's so much more to be learned too. So I'm taking with me like the want to learn more and read more. And yeah, I mean, just I don't know. That's such a huge question, and there are a lot of specific things, like little topics.
So to help break it down a little bit, I'll ask, what was your most surprising topic that we learned about that just really caught you off guard?
Um, the one about I can't remember the exact words we used. uh, but like housing segregation. I guess that's it. Yeah, that was interesting. Um, I just hadn't thought about it. Actually, I do have a little story for this one, but I was on the tennis team in high school, so we would travel and just play schools, mostly in the Lansing area, and we played a lot of like small private schools. But I remember one day we played Sexton, and everybody just kind of knows that this is like the rundown part of Lansing. Like nobody really wants to go there, and their school is not nice at all. And um, yeah, we got there and their tennis courts were just really run down. And then we learned that this was their first year having a tennis team in like 20 years. And yeah, and I just didn't think about it really, but it's like a predominantly Black school. And like, I think you'd feel like an outsider if you were a white kid at this school, which does not match the rest of Lansing really. But yeah, so we got there and we played them and we won, like we swept. And then after, on our way home, my coach had a talk with us and she told us that she had talked to their coach actually, and their coach said that their girls would like stay after practice for so many hours and just play and have fun because they didn't want to go home because like their home lives were really bad. And I just know that their communities are really run down, and that was really humbling. But then after this class and seeing like, oh, well, that's why, because of the racism and the housing segregation, just brought a new light to that.
Yeah, that's really sad. So do you think that you see that, as in Muncie, do you see the segregation comparable to your hometown?
Yeah, I haven't gotten out to the area of Muncie that he said specifically to go just check out and see for yourself. Um, but yeah, just learning about that, I think it's definitely comparable.
Okay. So you have kind of like you're predominantly white and then over here is predominantly Black. So it's like super like that then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So have you been into any of those predominantly Black neighborhoods and what was your perception of that?
I've driven through there, and it's just run down. I wouldn't really choose to go there just because like the stores, like they're not as good, like everything, and it's just kind of known. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's not as good.
Yeah. So let's see. What do you think out of the topics from this class that you will take with you? Like what's the main topic that really hit you and that you're going to take with you and improve upon?
Um, I think implicit bias, but more specifically just racism in myself, because I'm not sure if you need to face your inner racism before you can really like fight racism outside of yourself. I don't know, but I think that that's definitely something I want to face and improve on. Um, yeah, that's the main topic I think I want to take with me.
Okay. So how do you think that you'll improve upon that?
Um, just like by being aware of it, honestly, and wanting to grow and reading and learning more. But um, I think in specific situations, I think if I see like, oh, that like I had a microaggression there, and just being able to recognize it when I see it.
Okay, so do you think that, well, let me ask this first. So, would you feel comfortable going to like a physical protest, as in not like physical and fighting, but being there physically in person? Do you think you would be comfortable doing that?
I'm not sure about going by myself,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I think after this class more, because this past summer I just really didn't know if like it was okay for me to go or anything. But
Yeah.
yeah, with a group of friends, and yeah, I would definitely go.
Yeah. So I kind of didn't touch on this before in your personal background, but what do you think that, well, let me ask this first. Have your views as far as politically changed coming from high school to college?
Um, well, I hadn't really thought about politics in high school that much outside of my government class,
Okay.
so I didn't have much of an understanding of it. So it's really shaped once I got to college and had to vote.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so I don't know if there was really anything to change.
Okay. So then going along with that then, do you think that as far as like your community landscape and even like your family in your home, do you think that they would be supportive of the decision that you would make to be an anti-racist?
Oh, definitely, yeah. Um, I wouldn't like none of my family or anything in my even people in my community. I don't think anybody would say that they're a racist, but um, yeah, they would definitely be supportive of it.
Okay. Awesome. So do you think that you could go to a protest with your family?
I'm not sure. Uh, I
Like
mean,
say
I think
that
so.
like you really wanted to go and you asked your parents, do you think they would go along?
Oh, yeah, yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right. So probably the hardest question of all. What do you think it means to be an anti-racist?
Okay. Um, yeah, I've thought about this one a lot because it's tough, but I think it's just actively fighting racism, like no matter what place you're at. And I think that's important to recognize that like you don't have to know everything about racism to be an anti-racist, like as long as you're always trying to learn more and um, yeah, just trying to improve your knowledge based on racism and actively like doing whatever you can, whatever you know how to do at that time to fight it. I think that that's anti-racism.
Okay. So where do you see Ball State 5 years from now, 5 to 10 years from now?
Mm. See, I'm too much of an optimist as a person for this, but I know I really hope that maybe not 5 years, but 10 years, you know, everybody has to take some kind of racism class. I really want to see that, and I want to learn how I can make that happen too. Because I think that's really important. But 5 years, I don't see a difference.
Okay. So going along with what you said about the cultural diversity class within the curriculum, um, have you had any other classes in college that deals with diversity besides this one?
Mm, no.
Okay. And you said you're an architecture major, so do you think that if you were if you're going to continue to be an architecture major throughout the duration of your 4 years at Ball State, do you think that you'll be exposed to any more cultural diversity after this class?
I'm not sure about in classes. I know after this class, I'll be exposed to it because I want to be exposed to it and I want to find ways, but I'm not sure about specific classes. Maybe in other honors classes, we would talk about it some.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
within the architecture program itself, you don't think so?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So do you think that some type of curriculum should be required within each department?
Mm, I mean, I would say more core curriculum would be better. Because I just don't know how it would interact with architecture specifically. But I mean, there must be ways that I'm just not aware of. But I guess, yeah, core curriculum would probably be a little better.
Okay. Okay, so moving on then, how do you think that Muncie will change in the next 5 to 10 years? And I know you said that you're not super familiar with Muncie, but from what you've seen so far.
See, I just know what I want to happen. I really don't see it changing much because I don't know how even we go about changing the everything with the housing segregation.
Yeah.
I mean, homeowners are going to have their houses for a lot more than 5 to 10 years, probably. So it would be like over a much longer span of time.
Right.
Um, yeah, no.
Okay, so then what about your hometown? Do you think it'll change at all in 5 to 10 years?
Like I said, nobody comes in and nobody really leaves there. Uh, so I'm guessing it'll stay about the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you say that it's definitely more of like a conservative town?
Oh, definitely. Yes.
Okay. And then one step up, the US in 5 to 10 years, do you think it'll change?
Um, I mean, with a Democratic president, I don't know. Maybe there would. I. I don't know. But if I think it'll change, like that would just be legislation, and I honestly I can't even like answer that question. I don't. I have no idea. I don't really think it'll change much. Like maybe a law or two could be passed, but that just seems like a stretch.
Okay. This is kind of like an odd question, but do you think the difference between political parties would change like the racist outlook of our country in 5 years, like compared to having like a Republican president to a Democrat president? Do you think that it would truly change anything as far as race goes?
See, that's hard to answer.
Yeah.
But I feel like from a lot of what I've learned in this class, I don't know, because I just don't want it to like sound awful, but I'm not too
Yeah.
familiar with Republican views in general. But like the anti-capitalism just feels more like liberal views. Um, so I feel like it could. Um, just conservative. They want the government to kind of stay away, and I feel like that promotes racism.
Yeah, so how do you think that that relates then? You said that the government kind of being away would promote it. So then how does that come into play with some of the government agencies that we've talked about? Like, say, for example, I can't remember what it was called, but the Department of Protective Services that we
Yeah.
talked about. So how do you think that that relates? Because there, the government might be too involved.
Um, yeah, that was a good conversation. That's tough. I think what I got out of that conversation was that people were like they were calling the child protective services um more as what's the word like because they needed like services like money like more that than actually taking their children away. So I think if we had more programs, like more beneficial programs, then it just wouldn't be needed as much.
Yeah, it's just a really hard.
Everything is so complex.
Yeah.
But I mean, in that way, yeah, like government, in most cases, government's probably too involved.
Yeah, but yeah, it's like crazy either way. So I think that there's like a big continuum there, and I think that's why it's so difficult, especially if you have a Democrat or Republican. So I just think it's so complex for anyone, no matter if you are the president. It's still so complex, and so there's a lot of things to think about. Um, but going along and wrapping this up, so how do you think that you will contribute to being an anti-racist in your future?
I think if there were more protests, I would definitely want to go. Um, and I mean, maybe someday I'll get to the point where I would want to just go by myself, but I would round up some friends and um, I would go support the cause. But probably like try to join some clubs too if I can figure out more about like where my place is and everything. Also reading and just learning more, trying to take more classes. Yeah, this class has been really, really good for me.
Okay, so then how, if you are planning to move back home after college, how do you think that you will increase diversity within your hometown?
I don't think I'll go back home after college. I think I
Okay.
want to be an architect in some big city or maybe even a foreign country, but um, I honestly, I don't even know how to approach that. Like, uh,
So what initiatives do you think could be taken then in your hometown? You weren't there.
it really starts when you're young, I feel like, with school and when we're learning about Martin Luther King Jr. and like Rosa Parks and all these prominent Black figures. I feel like there's just be more of a conversation about the racism in our country and it's like foundations, but there's not. It's really surface level. And if we went beyond that a little bit, um, that would be a big change. But again, like I don't know how that would actually go into place. I think
Right.
that's just a place to start.
Yeah, because that would be at like the government level of changing the education curriculum, and then everything happens there. So, and then one other question that I had, which I cannot remember now. Okay, so past this class, do you have like, are you planning to take any more classes like culturally based, or do you plan on kind of like doing that on your own, like aside from college, like educating yourself through books and websites and articles and things like that?
Definitely on my own. I'm not sure about if there are any other classes like culturally based. I'll definitely have to look into that. But yeah, on my own, definitely. And if there are opportunities in classes, then yeah, I'll take those.
Yeah. And then the last thing is you said that like you would, well, I'll ask this first. Do you feel confident in class right now to talk about how you feel like for 10 plus minutes?
No.
Okay, but you said you
And
feel more confident now than you did in the beginning, right?
yeah, I've really tried to forgive myself and just focus on self-improvement. So even if it's like a conversation that I don't feel comfortable talking about in class, then or like volunteering an answer in the main group, like I usually feel really comfortable in the smaller groups, but in the big class, I really don't, and I try to forgive myself and just focus on improving myself.
I relate to that. So then how do you think that you'll be able to increase your confidence and be able to do that?
I think it just takes time and more experience with the topics. I
Okay.
don't know. I mean, I am pretty shy in general, but
Yeah.
yeah, just time and more knowledge base.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Do you plan on getting involved in any more like of the diversity clubs on campus after this class?
I'm going to look into it. I want to I want to figure out my place in it, and maybe like talk to some people in charge of those and
Yeah.
see. But if I can, then yes, yeah.
Okay. Well, it was really good talking to you. Thank you for allowing me to interview you. So I
Thank you
hope
for
you have
having
a good day.
me.
Bye.
Bye.